Hi everyone and welcome, this is the Apostate Prophet. It looks like nowadays the first thing that you learn when you convert to Islam is to defend Muhammad's child marriage. Let's take Sneako for example. Sneako recently became a Muslim, although it doesn't really mean much. He doesn't really practice Islam, he still drinks.
Stay healthy.
Do you not drink?
No, I mean, I do.
Still fools around, has fun with girls kissing each other on his lap. He doesn't pray, and so on. He became a Muslim because Andrew Tate converted to Islam. For those of you lucky enough not to know who Sneako is, it's too late now, I'm sorry. He is an influencer who did gaming, streaming, and all that stuff. I don't even care. Here is what Sneako said in the past about Muhammad when he was only interested in Islam.
Are you against grooming?
Yeah, it's gross.
How do you feel about the fact that Muhammad married a 9-year-old girl?
I don't know how true that is. If that's true, then he's not, then, nobody's perfect.
So child marriage is just a mistake. Not everybody is perfect. By the way, it's very interesting that those girls actually know about this and he doesn't. In the video, he also says that wife beating, if it works for them, is okay, I guess, but don't do it right now because it's illegal.
If your wife cheats or disobeys you in some ways, the Quran does order Muslim men to their wives. Do you think that's okay?
I mean, if it works for them. I mean, it worked for a long time. That's going to get you in jail now, so I'm not going to advocate anybody to do that.
But let's focus on child marriage for now because it's already big enough. Fast forward, he becomes a Muslim, and this is what he says nowadays.
That was before I reverted to Islam. She's asking me questions that I didn't know the answer to. I understand now that the parents have better decision-making abilities than the woman, and it was a different time. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, was definitely not a pedophile. He had many wives. A lot of them were older than him. I think his first wife was 50 when he was 25. He was friends with Aisha, peace be upon her. He was friends with her parents. I don't think that that's an example of pedophilia, no.
Now, Muhammad's first wife was, according to later reports, 40 years old when he was 25, but that is not really authenticated. He married an older woman after his first wife died, and then he married Aisha when she was 6 years old. And he consummated the marriage with her when she was 9 years old, and he was in his 50s. Yes, times were different back then, but there was absolutely no reason for Muhammad to marry Aisha. He was the leader, he had a wife, he went on after Aisha to marry many others, and had 9 wives at the same time. He didn't have children with Aisha, which means it was not for fertility. And Aisha died in her late 60s, which means it wasn't because she wouldn't live very long. In fact, the Quran prohibits, in a very funny Quran verse, the marrying of Muhammad's wives after he dies, because that would very much upset him, and Allah would be angry about that. So after Muhammad died, and Aisha was probably around 18 years old, she lived on more than 40 years, unmarried, and she wasn't even the last of his wives to die. When people say that lifespans were short in the past, what they mean is not that people were living significantly shorter lives. What they mean is that the death rates were much higher, which is why the average lifespan was relatively short. I mean, Muhammad himself died in his 60s, according to the knowledge that we have. Some say she narrated a lot of details about the things that he did and said. A woman of a different age at marriage could have done that. A better plan by Allah could have done that if Allah is actually in charge of Muhammad and the revelations.
He was friends with her parents.
The fact there is that Muhammad was close to Aisha's father, Abu Bakr, who also became the first caliph after him. But that doesn't mean anything. You can't just say, well, she's 5, but the parents say it's fine, so why not? Or she's 11 months old, the parents say it's okay, so why not? Which nobody would say, oh, excuse me, this guy said it here.
Could a man have a marriage to a 5-year-old consummated if she started precocious puberty?
If she starts showing signs of physical maturity, then yes, that's permissible, as I
What
said.
about age 4?
If there are signs,
I have a study
there are
that shows
no...
it goes as early as 11 months.
See, the thing about Islamic marriage is that parents are involved.
Parents cannot be relied upon as the ultimate authorities in making such decisions for their children. Parents often cannot tell what others can tell about their own children. And even if they could, you simply cannot trust people with such a thing in any society. You cannot trust that people will 100% do the right things. You might have very harsh laws against child abuse, but if you leave it all to the parents, then they might end up abusing their children. They might end up wanting to get rid of their children and marrying them off when they are not ready. It happens. I shouldn't even be talking about this in length. Children in general at that age are not ready for marriage, neither physically nor mentally. They were also not ready in Muhammad's time, physically or mentally.
I think his first wife was 50 when he was 25. I don't think that that's an example of pedophilia, no.
It doesn't really matter what Sneako thinks. Pedophilia in psychology describes the attraction to minors. And pedophiles can be exclusively attracted to children, or they can also be attracted to others. In the end, they are still pedophiles. But the terminology of pedophilia doesn't really matter here. Fine, forget about the word, don't call it pedophilia. The point stands. He married a 6-year-old girl and took her to bed when she was 9.
And it was a different time.
When people say that things were different back then, they are implying that such a thing was only okay in Muhammad's time and would not be okay today by Islamic standards. What do you base that on? Nothing. There is no Islamic text which says such a thing was only for back then and should not be practiced in the future. The only reason you frown upon child marriage today is because people learned that it's not in the best interest of all parties involved, that it increases human suffering, and that it should therefore be prevented. Sneako, do you really want to go down with this legacy? What are you doing? But Sneako is not the only one. We also have Tristan Tate, the brother of Andrew Tate, who learned from some traditionalist Muslim scholars and who also began defending Muhammad's child marriage. He said in response to Pearl Davis, or Just Pearly Things, who was asking about Muhammad's marriage to a child, when people complain at it was a different time, they literally only focus on the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Middle East. That was in the 7th century. You live in England, right? Google how old Princess Isabella was when she married Richard II of England over 800 years later. Is Muhammad the central moral character in Islam and considered a moral example for all time? Yes. Is Richard II of England the central character of a religion and considered a timeless moral character for all time? No. Royal families cared about protecting their royal ties and continuing their heritage. So they often did things which common folk did not do. In Muhammad's case, it is a completely unnecessary marriage by a supposedly perfect moral character for all time. That there is the difference. Because of these ambitions, royal families did a lot of messed up things, like the Habsburg dynasty, for example, which through incest created this king, Charles II of Spain. Imagine they took incest even further than others do. Wait until you find out how old the Virgin Mary was when God impregnated her. Joseph also married her. Please look this all up. It is of course very convenient that he said please look this all up because he can't look it up and he can't give us an actual source because it's not available. People only make guesses that she was probably in her mid-teens or something like that. Which, by the way, is a very interesting piece of information. If we assume that it is true that she was in her mid-teens 2,000 years ago, then that would be a very interesting comparison to Aisha, 6 years old, and 9 at consummation, over 600 years after that. I really wonder what kind of source Tristan Tate will give us for the age of Mary, though. Will he look at the Book of Council of Nicaea?
They did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible.
You're saying there's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
Or maybe he will cite Matt 39.
What's the chapter and verse of that?
Matt, verse 39.
What's the chapter?
I don't know.
But hey, I don't want to make fun of somebody just because of their... Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I will. Because this is how Sneako behaves and how he was banned from YouTube.
You could tell by the way she's talking that she hasn't been properly in a long time. So she's on the internet making this garbage video, promoting all this feminist garbage to your fucking lonely girls in the comment section. What you really need, Chad, is some yeah, shut up with your feminism. Yeah, come here, that's what you need. And she's gonna go, that's what you need. You need some sense back into you.
Congratulations, Islam found another perfect candidate. By the way, Pearl received some really nasty comments in response to her question, including from our dear friend Muhammad Hijab. Be very careful how you speak about our holy prophet, otherwise we won't hesitate to humiliate you.
You're hiding, boy! You're hiding!
Yes, be careful, Pearl, because this guy probably thinks, looking at his past tweet, that you are one of those Islamophobic women who secretly want to be captured by strong Muslim men like him and be sexually used.
Take off your panties, whether you like it or not, you're gonna show me your boobs.
But anyway, thanks for watching, I will be back soon. Make sure to like, subscribe, and support this channel so we can grow and spread more information which everybody has to know. Have a fantastic day and stay away from Islam.